Next to the Mass, the Rosary is the most powerful prayer. Wars have been stopped by saying the Rosary. Miracles and healings have been granted for those who unceasingly prayed the Rosary. Sinners have become saints because of saying the Rosary. You can even release souls from purgatory by saying the Rosary, offering up your Rosary for the ones they never prayed. God says to pray without ceasing. The Rosary does just that. In a time when meditation is so popular, the Rosary more than fulfills the need for peace in our hearts that so many are looking for. The difference between meditation of the world, such as yoga, is focusing on ourselves, while the Rosary is focusing on Jesus himself. The month of May is a great time to start making a habit of praying the Rosary because it is the month of Our Lady, and she is the one who introduced us to the Rosary. Therefore, since it comes from God himself through Our Lady, it is the most perfect prayer. If she says to pray the Rosary unceasingly to atone for our sins, bring us closer to God, and save the world from needless chastisements, then we should, because she is our mother. When St. Francisco, one of the seers of Fatima, learned that Our Lady wanted him to pray more rosaries, he said, "Oh, dear Lady, I will say as many rosaries as you want." He followed through with this promise, saying at the very least 3 rosaries a day, if not 5 or 6. When he became ill, he decided to use his time to pray rosaries rather than go to school, since he knew he would be dying soon. He prayed rosaries all day in a nearby church while he waited for Lucia to finish school. There are countless stories of how the Rosary has stopped attacks and battles in action. One recent story is how the Rosary saved 8 priests from certain death when an atomic bomb was dropped on their city. On August 6, 1945, during World War II, an atomic bomb was dropped on the town of Hiroshima, Japan. 140,000 people were killed or injured. There was a home 8 blocks from where the A-bomb went off. This home had a church attached to it, which was completely destroyed, but the home survived. And so did 8 German Jesuit missionaries who prayed the Rosary in that house faithfully every day. These men were missionaries to the Japanese people. They were non-military, but because Germany and Japan were allies during World War II, they were permitted to live and minister within Japan during the war. Not only did they survive with relatively minor injuries, but they all lived well past that awful day with no radiation sickness, no loss of hearing, or any other visible long-term defects or maladies. When asked about their remarkable experience, they always said, "We believe that we survived because we were living the message of Fatima. We lived and prayed the Rosary daily in that home." It can be tough to get in the habit to pray the Rosary daily, and usually there are 3 main reasons why people find themselves avoiding it. Lucky for us, St. Louis de Montfort has an answer for all these excuses. Many people avoid saying the Rosary because they find it repetitive and boring. This is not true if you're truly meditating on the mysteries, because there's nothing more wonderful or beautiful than the lives of Jesus and Mary. It's also important to say the Rosary with the intention of growing in holiness and avoiding sin. You should also be in the state of grace. St. Louis de Montfort says more about this. We earnestly advise everyone to say the Rosary, the virtuous, that they may persevere and grow in the grace of God, sinners, that they may rise from their sins. But God forbid we should ever encourage a sinner to think that Our Lady will protect him with her mantle if he continues to love sin, for it will turn into a mantle of damnation, which will hide his sins from the public eye. The learned Cardinal Hughes tells us that one should be as pure as an angel to approach the Blessed Virgin and say the angelic salutation. One day, Our Lady showed herself to an immoral man who used to say the Rosary regularly every day. She showed him a beautiful bowl of fruit, but the bowl itself was covered with filth. The man was horrified to see this, and Our Lady said to him, "This is the way you are honoring me. You are giving me beautiful roses in a dirty bowl. Do you think I can find them pleasing to me?" Sister Lucia of Fatima shares her thoughts on how Our Lady created a simple way of holiness for those of us who struggle with prayer. My impression is that the Rosary is of greatest value not only according to the words of Our Lady of Fatima, but according to the effects of the Rosary one sees throughout history. My impression is that Our Lady wanted to give ordinary people who might not know how to pray this simple method of getting closer to God. Distractions are another reason why people stop saying the Rosary. It can feel very discouraging when our mind is constantly thinking of the next thing we have to do, or what we could be doing if we weren't spending our time saying the Rosary. St. Louis de Montfort cautions us, "Do not listen to the devil, but be of good heart." Even if your imagination has been bothering you throughout the Rosary, filling your mind with all kinds of distracting thoughts, so as long as you tried your best to get rid of them as soon as you noticed them. Always remember that the best Rosary is the one with the most merit, and there is more merit in praying when it is hard than when it is easy. Blessed Alain de la Roque backs this up by the following story of 3 women who were instructed to say the Rosary every day for a year. A good priest advised 3 of his penitents, who happened to be sisters, to say the Rosary every day without fail for a whole year. This was so that they might make a beautiful robe of glory for the Blessed Virgin out of their rosaries. This was a secret that the priest had received from heaven. So the 3 sisters said the Rosary faithfully for a year, and on the feast of the Purification, Our Lady appeared to them at night when they had retired. St. Catherine and St. Agnes were with her, and she was wearing a dress brilliant with light, on which was written in letters of gold the words, "Hail Mary, full of grace." Our Lady approached the eldest sister and said, "I greet you, my daughter, who have greeted me so often and so well. I want to thank you for the beautiful robes you have made me." The 2 virgin saints who accompanied Our Lady also thanked her, and all 3 of them disappeared. An hour later, Our Lady, with the same 2 companions, entered the room again, but this time was wearing a green dress which had no gold lettering and did not shine. She went to the second sister and thanked her for the robe she had made by saying her Rosary. But since this sister had seen Our Lady appear to the eldest sister much more magnificently dressed, she asked the reason why. Our Lady answered, "Your sister made me more beautiful clothes because she had been saying the Rosary better than you." About an hour after this, she appeared to the youngest of the sisters, wearing tattered and dirty rags. "My daughter," she said, "I want to thank you for these clothes which you have made for me." The young girl, feeling ashamed, cried out, "Oh, my lady, how could I have dressed you so badly? I beg you to forgive me. Please grant me a little more time to give you a beautiful robe by saying my Rosary better." Our Lady and the 2 saints vanished, leaving the girl heartbroken. She told her confessor everything that had happened, and he urged them to say the Rosary for another year and to say it with more devotion than ever. At the end of this second year, on the same day of the Purification, Our Lady, clothed in a magnificent robe, and again attended by St. Catherine and St. Agnes, wearing crowns, appeared to them in the evening. She said to them, "I have come to tell you that you have earned heaven at last, and you will all have the greatest joy of going there tomorrow." The 3 of them cried, "Our hearts are ready, dearest Queen, our hearts are ready." Then the vision faded. In today's busy world, finding time to say the Rosary can be difficult, but sometimes it helps to think of it in this way. If you have time for a 20-minute show, you have time for the Rosary. If you have time to be on social media for 20 minutes, you have time for the Rosary. Also, thanks to social media, we can say the Rosary on an app or on YouTube while on our way to work or waiting in traffic. St. Louis de Montfort has this advice. "I advise you to divide up your Rosary into different parts of the day. If you cannot find the time to give decades altogether, say a decade here and a decade there. You will thus be able, in spite of your work and the calls upon your time, to complete the whole Rosary before going to bed." It is sad how most people say the Rosary. They say it very fast, slipping over the words. We could not possibly expect even the most important person to think that a slipshod address of this kind was a compliment, and yet we imagine that Jesus and Mary will be honored by it. Don't be surprised, then, if the most sacred prayers of our holy religion bears no fruit, and that after saying thousands of rosaries, we are still no better than what we were before. Here is a story of how a priest transformed the spirit of his lagging congregation after preaching on the rosary. This priest writes, "I had preached as compellingly as I could, touching on many aspects of our holy faith and using every argument I could possibly think of to get people to amend their way of life, but in vain. Finally, I decided to preach the Holy Rosary. I told my congregants how precious it was and taught them how to say it. And once they learned to appreciate this devotion, I saw a manifest change within 6 months." If you want to stop habitual sin, say the Rosary. If you want to become a saint, say the Rosary. If you want to please God, say the Rosary. If you want to end fights in the family home, say the Rosary. There are so many reasons to say the Rosary. Is there any reason not to?